At 39, Ethan had never been on a train before. He had always preferred the swiftness of planes, quick, efficient, impersonal. But this time, for reasons he couldn't quite explain, he had chosen the slow, winding path of the railway. Perhaps it was because the city felt too far away by car, yet too close by air. Or maybe, deep down, he longed for the kind of romance trains seemed to promise in old films. The engine purred softly as the train prepared to depart. The platform was filled with people, but Ethan only saw one person, his husband, Julian. Julian stood a few feet away, his soft brown eyes locked onto Ethan's. His lips, slightly parted, trembled as if there was something he wanted to say but couldn't. The morning sun cast golden highlights on his dark curls, making him look ethereal, like a dream Ethan didn't want to wake up from. "I still think you should have let me come with you," Julian murmured, stepping closer and reaching out to fix the collar of Ethan's coat. Ethan smiled, leaning into his touch. "It's just a work trip. I'll be back before you even have a chance to miss me." Julian let out a soft laugh. "You know that's not true. I miss you even when you're just in the next room." Ethan's chest ached at the confession. Julian had always been like this. Honest, open, never afraid to show love. And Ethan, despite his quiet nature, had learned over the years how to meet him halfway. He cupped Julian's face gently and brushed his lips against his husband's in a slow, lingering kiss. It was a kiss filled with unspoken promises and affection, each second stretching into eternity. "I love you," Ethan whispered, his voice barely above a breath. Julian closed his eyes, savoring the moment. "I love you more," he replied, a smile dancing on his lips. The train whistle blew, a sharp reminder that their time was running out. Ethan reluctantly pulled away, grabbing his suitcase. Julian walked him to the door, their fingers brushing one last time before Ethan stepped inside. As the train began to move, Ethan found a window seat and turned to watch Julian. His husband stood on the platform, hands tucked into his coat pockets, eyes never leaving Ethan's until the train carried him away. Each click of the wheels against the tracks echoed the rhythm of Ethan's heart, a melody of longing that pulsed through him. Chapter 2. A Journey of Memories. The train rocked gently as it sped through open fields, the golden hues of autumn blurring past. Ethan rested his head against the window, watching the world unfold outside. He had expected the journey to be lonely, but Julian was everywhere, in the warmth of his scarf, in the scent of coffee lingering on his breath, in the soft hum of music playing through his headphones. He scrolled through his phone, landing on their last text exchange. "Julian, miss you already." Ethan, "I just left, Jules." Julian, "Exactly. Too long." Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. He typed a quick reply. "Ethan, you're ridiculous." Julian, "And you love it." A soft smile played on Ethan's lips. Yes, he did. He loved everything about Julian. The way he stole Ethan's sweaters, the way he danced in the kitchen, the way he kissed him in the middle of conversations just because he could. Each memory wrapped around him like a warm embrace, soothing the ache of distance. Lost in thought, Ethan barely noticed when someone sat down across from him. "First train ride?" a voice asked. Ethan looked up. A man, about his age, smiled at him knowingly. He had dark hair, a neatly trimmed beard, and a relaxed air about him. "Is it that obvious?" Ethan asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. The man chuckled. "A little. You keep staring out the window like you're expecting something magical to happen." Ethan smirked. "Maybe I am." The man extended a hand. "Leo." "Ethan." They shook hands, and for the next hour, they talked about everything: work, books, travel. Leo was easy to talk to, the kind of person who could turn a stranger into a friend in minutes. Yet, despite the engaging conversation, Ethan's mind drifted back to Julian. "You're married, aren't you?" Leo asked suddenly, his gaze sharp yet kind. Ethan blinked. How did you? Leo laughed. The way you keep looking at your phone, the way you smiled earlier. That's not just any smile. That's the I'm in love with someone amazing smile. Ethan chuckled, warmth flooding his cheeks. Yeah, his name is Julian. Leo leaned back, grinning. Lucky guy. I'm the lucky one, Ethan said, without hesitation. The words felt true, resonating within him. Julian was his anchor, his muse, the light in his life. Chapter 3. Love Across Miles. As the train sped towards the city, the sky darkened. The sun set in hues of orange and lilac, painting the world in warmth. Ethan sent Julian a picture of the sky, wanting to share the beauty with him. Ethan, you'd love this view. Julian, not as much as I love yours. Ethan bit his lip, warmth spreading through his chest. The banter felt like home, a reminder that love transcended distance. Julian is texting, isn't he? Leo teased, a knowing glint in his eye. Ethan nodded, unable to hide his smile. He always knows how to make me feel better. You should call him, Leo suggested, his gaze encouraging. Ethan hesitated for a moment before pressing Julian's number, anticipation fluttering in his stomach. Hey, Julian answered, his voice soft and familiar. Hey, Ethan echoed, feeling a rush of affection. You okay? Julian asked, concern lacing his tone. I missed your voice. There was a pause, then Julian's quiet sigh. Ethan, you're going to kill me with sweetness. Ethan chuckled, his heart swelling. I love you, Jules. I love you more, Julian whispered, and Ethan could almost hear the smile in his voice. They talked for a while, about nothing and everything, until the train neared Ethan's stop. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, each word a thread weaving them closer together. I'll see you soon, Ethan promised, his voice steady yet filled with longing. You better, Julian teased, his laughter a sweet melody that lingered in Ethan's mind. Chapter 4. Homecoming. 2 days later, Ethan stepped off the return train, his heart racing. The moment he saw Julian on the platform, waiting for him, everything else faded. Julian's presence was magnetic, drawing Ethan in as if they were two celestial bodies destined to collide. Julian ran to him, throwing his arms around Ethan's neck, kissing him like they had been apart for years. The world around them dissolved, leaving only the warmth of their embrace and the soft brush of their lips. God, I missed you, Julian breathed against his lips, his voice heavy with emotion. Ethan tightened his hold, burying his face in Julian's neck. I missed you more. They stood there, wrapped in each other, as the world moved around them. Time seemed to freeze in that moment, their hearts beating in sync, a testament to the love they shared. Let's get you home, Julian said softly, pulling back slightly to look into Ethan's eyes. His gaze was warm, filled with affection and relief. Ethan nodded, his heart swelling. I can't wait to be home with you. As they walked hand in hand, the city lights twinkling in the distance, Ethan realized that it didn't matter how far he traveled. The real journey was always back to Julian. Their love was a compass, guiding him home. Chapter 5. The Little Moments. Back at their apartment, the familiar scent of home enveloped Ethan like a cozy blanket. Julian had lit candles, their soft glow dancing around the room, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Welcome home, Julian said, his voice a gentle caress. Ethan smiled, feeling a rush of gratitude. I missed this place. But mostly you missed me, Julian teased, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Okay, you caught me, Ethan admitted, laughing. I missed you more than anything. Julian took a step closer, his fingers brushing against Ethan's cheek. Then let's celebrate your return properly. Before Ethan could respond, Julian leaned in and captured his lips in a kiss that sent shivers down his spine. It was slow and deliberate, each movement infused with the passion that had been building during their time apart. Ethan melted into Julian, his hands finding their way to Julian's waist, pulling him closer. They lingered there, lost in each other, until they finally pulled away, breathless and smiling. "How about dinner?" Julian suggested, his voice low and inviting. "Sounds perfect," Ethan replied, his heart still racing. As they cooked together, laughter filled the air, the kitchen a symphony of clattering pots and playful banter. They danced around each other, their movements fluid and harmonious, a choreography born from years of love and understanding. "Want to taste?" Julian asked, holding out a spoon filled with sauce. Ethan leaned in, his lips curling into a playful smile. "Only if you promise to taste too." Julian raised an eyebrow, a smirk forming on his lips. "Deal." They both took a bite, their eyes locking as the flavors exploded on their tongues. They laughed, savoring not just the food, but the moment, the simple joy of being together. Chapter 6: Rediscovery. Over the next few days, Ethan and Julian reveled in each other's company. They revisited their favorite haunts, strolled through parks, and spent quiet evenings curled up on the couch, watching movies. Each moment was a reminder of the deep bond they shared, a connection that transcended the mundane. One evening, as they sat on the balcony, wrapped in blankets and sipping hot cocoa, Julian turned to Ethan, his expression serious. "Do you ever think about where we'll be in a few years?" he asked, his voice thoughtful. Ethan considered the question, his heart swelling with confidence. "As long as we're together, I know it'll be amazing." Julian smiled, his eyes shining. "You always know how to put things into perspective." Ethan reached out, tucking a loose strand of hair behind Julian's ear. "What about you? What do you see?" "I see us in a cozy little house, maybe with a garden," Julian mused, a dreamy look in his eyes. "And maybe a couple of kids running around." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The thought of a family with Julian filled him with warmth. "I'd love that," he replied, his voice steady. Julian's smile widened, and he leaned in closer, their foreheads touching. "I love dreaming with you." Chapter 7: The Kiss. As the days turned into weeks, their love deepened, blossoming like the flowers in spring. One night, after a particularly beautiful day spent exploring the city, they returned home, the air charged with a lingering excitement. In the soft glow of their living room, Julian turned to Ethan, his expression a mix of playfulness and sincerity. "You know, it's been a while since we had a proper date night." Ethan raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" Julian stepped closer, a teasing smile on his lips. "How about a candlelit dinner, followed by a dance in the living room?" "Sounds perfect," Ethan replied, his heart racing. They set the table together, the flickering candlelight casting a warm glow. As they enjoyed their meal, the conversation flowed effortlessly, laughter punctuating the air. After dinner, Julian took Ethan's hand and led him to the living room, where soft music filled the space. They swayed gently, lost in each other's arms, the world around them fading away. As the song reached its crescendo, Julian leaned in, his breath warm against Ethan's lips. "You're everything to me. You know that." Ethan's heart swelled with emotion. "And you're everything to me." With that, Julian closed the distance, capturing Ethan's lips in a kiss that was both tender and electrifying. Time seemed to stand still as they melted into each other, the kiss deepening with each passing moment. Ethan felt as if they were the only two people in the universe, the world outside forgotten. Chapter 8: New Beginnings. As the seasons changed, so did their lives. They found a new rhythm, balancing work and love, laughter and quiet moments. One sunny afternoon, they decided to visit a local farmer's market, the vibrant colors and fresh produce invigorating. Ethan's hand was firmly entwined with Julian's as they strolled through the stalls, the sun warming their faces. They sampled strawberries, their sweetness reminiscent of summer days. "I think we should make a fruit salad tonight," Julian suggested, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. Only if you promise to let me eat half of it. Julian laughed, pulling Ethan closer. Deal. As they continued to explore, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over him. Each moment spent with Julian was a treasure, a reminder of the love they had cultivated together. Later that evening, they prepared dinner in the kitchen, the aroma of fresh ingredients filling the air. As they chopped and stirred, their bodies brushed against each other, igniting sparks of affection. After their meal, they settled on the couch, cuddled under a blanket, watching the sun dip below the horizon. I could get used to this, Ethan murmured, resting his head on Julian's shoulder. Julian smiled, pressing a soft kiss to the top of Ethan's head. Me too. Chapter 9. The Proposal. Months passed, and one chilly evening, as they prepared for bed, Ethan felt a familiar flutter in his heart. They were in the living room, the soft glow of the fire casting flickering shadows. Ethan, Julian began, his voice slightly shaky. There's something I've been wanting to ask you. Ethan turned to face him, curiosity piqued. What is it? Julian took a deep breath, his eyes locking onto Ethan's. You know how much I love you, right? Of course, Ethan replied, his heart racing. And how I can't imagine my life without you. Julian continued, his voice growing softer. Ethan nodded, feeling a rush of warmth. Julian hesitated for a moment, then knelt down on one knee, pulling out a small box from his pocket. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Will you marry me? Julian asked, looking up at Ethan with a mixture of hope and vulnerability. Tears filled Ethan's eyes as he processed the moment. Yes! 1,000 times. Yes! Julian slipped the ring onto Ethan's finger, and they embraced, the warmth of their love enveloping them like a cozy blanket. Chapter 10. Forever. As they planned their wedding, their love only grew stronger. Each step brought them closer, every detail a reflection of their journey together. On their wedding day, the air was filled with love and laughter. Julian stood at the altar, his eyes shining with emotion as Ethan walked down the aisle, the world around them fading into a blur. Today, I choose you, Julian said, his voice steady and full of love. And I choose you, Ethan replied, tears of joy streaming down his face. They exchanged vows, promising to support each other through every twist and turn of life. When they shared their first kiss as a married couple, the world erupted into applause, but all that mattered was the love they shared, a love that had brought them to this moment. Epilogue. Home at last. Years later, as they sat on their porch, watching the sunset together, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Their journey had been filled with love, laughter, and countless kisses, each moment a reminder of the bond they shared. Julian turned to Ethan, his eyes warm and full of love. I wouldn't change a thing. Ethan smiled, taking Julian's hand in his. Neither would I. You're my home, Julian. Their fingers intertwined. They watched the sun dip below the horizon, knowing that no matter where life took them, their love would always guide them home.